broken heart, tell me if I deserve this feeling. I thought that you know that we had something special till you end up all this way. You tell me when you left me bleeding. With a broken heart, tell me why I deserve this feeling. I thought that you loved me, I thought that you need me till you end up all this way. Have you forgot all the moments while we had was so true? This world was made for two. I did it Feelings change and love can go, but tell me why are you so cold? What did I wrong? What was the fault? Or what you say is I don't know. Feelings change and love can go, but tell me why are you so cold? What did I wrong? What was the fault? I thought that you loved me, I thought that you need me till you end up all this way. Have you forgot all the moments while we had was so true? This world was made for two.
Of the content for days over the next 3 weeks. Good evening, everybody. My name is Rhino. I am joined, as always, on RSCast by Sir Pegasus and Kingsman, and we all have the background. Yeah, baby. Let's go. Kingsman finally got enough money in his bank account to buy a green screen. What a time to be alive. And actually, I know that's not true because you're just using software to do it. So,
oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
We can say that the
one's judged.
breaded now. It's fine. It's fine. Hope you're all doing very well. Of course, we have got so much to get through today, but I'm quickly going to say hello to my panelists. Pegasus, firstly coming over to you. 9 weeks finished. How do you feel the season went?
Pretty good, but it's not over for me yet. Thank goodness. There was a chance that
it could have been with some of my performances in recent seasons, but I started to pick up a little bit. It's been less RS casts, unfortunately, but I'm glad to at least have us all back for the final week of League play, because this is one of the big ones.
It really is one of the big ones. And Kingsman, when you think about some of the big ones in RSC, Cash definitely comes to mind. But unfortunately, it's been a little bit of a trying time for your team. Do you want to just talk us through what's been happening over the last week or so?
Yeah, well, we've had Cash go on IR, so a bit of fun there. That happened last week, which would have been mentioned on last week's RSCcast, but obviously not been there. But his replacement is truly thriving again in the roster. I mean, what can I say? Me and Kashir are just that good to play with. You can put anyone with us, and we'll be going 8-0 every week. But yeah, I'm good and well. This is where playoff starts. We've now eliminated 4 teams out of every single conference in RSC, and this is where it gets to its juiciest.
It absolutely is. But as always, when we go to look forward, we must first look back. And let's take a look at the Week 9 recap as we go, as we always do, to start with Academy. As always, every team played every game over the past week, and there were a couple of spots to fill in Academy play-ins and playoffs. It was all change, in fact, in one of the conferences. We'll talk about that in a moment, but we kick things off with the results from last week in Glacies and, of course, Kingsman Gas.
Yeah, one team made a final dash to try and secure themselves a top 6 spot. It was our Connex putting up an iconic final week, sweeping Hot Metal and getting a 3-1 win onto Hayes, who were flying at that point, looking to secure a top spot. But we'll see if they got it in the end. Our Connex with a glorious week to remember at the final, but was it enough to move them from 9th up towards those top spots? We'll have to find out. Again, the only other team to go double win was 20 Recruits. They were known as the most balanced team. 6 wins, 5 draws, and 5 losses coming into the final week. Nice little double 3-1 onto Rain and Coyotl. Sent that format flying and put them higher up the list in terms of wins. A few draws around the table. They were the Scent, finding double draws. They were top going into the week, and a double draw week slightly stagnates their process at the top. A good draw with Hayes and a draw with Coyotl. Something they might have wanted to avoid, but who knows where it put them in standings.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kingsman. Only one sweep over in Glacies. It's a very different picture in Ignis, Pegasus.
Yeah, it was Sweep Central teams wanting to prove themselves before that play-ins or playoffs time comes around, and trying to get there in the first place was Propel, and they got to be masters of their own destiny here, playing both Young Owls, and I'm going to go for Tutanai, that were 2 teams sitting beneath them. Those both ended up settling down to draws. We'll see a little bit later if that was enough for them to go all the way, but Tutanai were certainly slowed down, unfortunately, by their other results this week. And another team that had quite a flying ending, let's just say, to the season was Drengir. 8-0. They've consistently been one of those top teams in the Ignis conference. But what a statement is this? A win versus Calidus and a win versus Alter. They're 2 lower sides here heading into the play-ins and playoff stages. But still, you want to get warm. You want to get confident. And that's certainly a result that's going to do exactly that. Trickery, another team that's going to feel that sense of confidence. It was a 4-0, as mentioned before, against that Tutanai team, but also a 3-1 win versus Alter. It's showing up as 3-1 up there to the Sanctuary roster, but I have been informed in chat and can see as well on the database that series actually went the other way.
Thank you very much. So let's take a look then at the standings for the Glacies Conference, and most of the top groups were pretty much decided going into this week 9, but it was in fact more to do with the play-ins that had our change of pace. And Kingsman, let us know how the Glacies Conference in Academy finished up for the regular season.
Yeah, there was only 3 series wins in the top 6 teams, and 20 Recruits having 2 of them leapfrog their way to the top spot come the end of week 9. 20 Recruits on 42 wins just beat Xinjiang to top on 41 and Ascent on 40, getting that double draw week. And Coyote will be sat thinking what could have been if they hadn't suffered that loss to Arconics, because they sit fourth on 39. One or two more wins would have put them in that upper bracket, but they are sent to the lowers in the play-ins. Rain, then, I talked about them drawing all the time at the start of the season, and look at that. They end equal on 36-36 with a draw and a loss to cap off round 9. Unito also just below on 35, a draw and a loss for them. But Arconics would have been really hoping that Unito picked up 2 losses. A huge 7-1 week, but too little, too late for them. They find themselves just 1 game off, moving up to 7th, but it means nothing. They are now out of RSC 16, along with Hayes on 33 wins, Hot Metal on 31, and Juniors, who picked up a surprise win as well, their 3rd of the season, but they finished bottom of Glacies on 29 wins.
We will talk a little bit later about what this means for the postseason, for play-ins and playoffs respectively, a little bit later on in the conversation. Thank you very much, Kingsman. Moving over then to the fiery tier, we're looking at Ignis Conference now in Academy. And, I mean, this tier was absolutely mental in the final week. So much changing, so much happening. Pegasus, talk us through it.
At 8-0, clutches that top spot here for Drengir. They're not only guaranteed a spot at playoffs, they're guaranteed to have that second life as well. Martium and Livens are going to have to play in that play-in stages to fight for that extra life come Saturday. However, going down, we see those surviving teams' trickery just about outside that top 3 spot, guaranteed 1 life for them. And then it's Bahamut and Propel to follow. Propel, I said they were that team that had 2 draws this week. Would it be enough? Just about. They've got that head-to-head coming up against 2 tonight, which has unfortunately edged them out of the competition. And this is where you see all the teams that have been eliminated. Young Owls, Alter, and Calidus following. Unfortunately for Alter and Calidus, those are some pretty low scores. The only teams in this conference to be under 30 wins. The only other team to do that in Glacies was KDJ Juniors, and they were sitting on a crisp 29.
They certainly were. Thank you very much, Pegasus. So that is your Academy standings as we go into the final week. We are not going to do fixtures this week because we are going to discuss our predictions for play-ins and playoffs for Academy and, of course, Prospect a little bit later on in the show. Speaking of Prospect, let's now take a look at all of the results from week 9 over there, the next tier up. And although it is Pegasus's conference, Pegasus's tier, I should say, we are going to start with Kingsman Gas taking us through the Glacies results of week 9 in Prospect.
Yes, we are. And, well, a few more 4-0s to talk about here. Embark, they faced a real bad Embark here as they went 0-8 in the final week to really push it in. Although on the database it said they picked up a win and loss in the final week. So, interesting things going on there. But according to this, 0-8 in the final week for them. I don't know whether that Nanettle fixture was reversed or not, because they're the team that picked up double loss in a series. It doesn't really matter either way. Anyway, Incus getting a 4-0 sweep in a double win week for them, where they needed results, and they also picked up a 3-1 win against 20 Recon, who were playoff hopefuls, with a 4-0 forfeit win against Spark at the start of the week. That's really what they needed, but they were shut down by Incus. And near the top of the table, it was all draws for basically those top 3 teams. Yokai and Obscurity had one big series to decide it, ended in a draw, and Obscurity, in what was a really difficult week against first and second, picked up 2 draws in what's a very good week. But Thunder were a team on the charge. They were looking for that 3rd place spot, and 3-1 both ways against teams slightly below them. Maybe that game against Spark they'll have hoping was a sweep, and you'll see why.
You certainly will in just a moment, but first we've got to talk through the Ignis Conference results. And Pegasus, every single team in Ignis looked like they wanted to get to that postseason.
Certainly, there were actually no double win weeks for any teams in this conference in the final week, and half of the games ended a draw. This is what happens when you push your teams to the absolute maximum. And I do again want to give a little bit of notice there to the first matchup. I think there's something wrong with the data set, but it's putting the scoreline on the wrong side of the way, because it was actually Impetus that landed a sweep there against Ocultus, the dexterity side, which had to have quite the week to throw themselves into top 6 standings. Unfortunately, that sweeping loss is not going to help, but that win versus Kokyokan 3-1 certainly will. A result that I'm sure not many people expected, but it wasn't the best of weeks overall for that Alpha Surge side, who also faced a 3-1 loss versus lower side on the table, DSQ Kiyanu. And we actually have quite a similar result to what we saw in Academy just earlier, where we see a team that's fighting for a top 6 spot actually get 2 draws, with one of which being against Neat Esports yet again, and the other being against top side Tomfoolery. And I feel like the last thing I'm going to point out here is going to be actually a decisive result in the sea of draws, and that is Owlet actually managing to beat down Impetus. We know they're the number 1 side. I'm sorry, they're spoilers, but they were winning every week. You should have known they grabbed some distance by now. But that is definitely not going to be the best result for the confidence.
Certainly is not, but doesn't matter too much now about confidence with the regular season being over. There is, however, some spots to be filled, and let's see how they're filled in Glacies with our play-ins and playoff spots. And Kingsman, outside of the top 2, there was a big question mark about where the rest of the teams would land. Where have they landed?
Well, Yokai picked up their first 2 draws of the season. It was just enough to keep Ankoli with 2C behind them. Both picked up 12 series wins, but Yokai had that extra margin, 49 game wins compared to Ankoli with 2C's 48. Big result for them. Now, Obscurity versus Thunder. For those of you wondering about head-to-head, Obscurity do in fact take it 6-2. They had a thumping 4-0 sweep in their first matchup, where Thunder only scored 1 singular goal. And in the second one, it was a bit more of a fairer affair with a 2-2 draw. However, Obscurity secured that purely based on head-to-head, even as much as Thunder did to go double win. It wasn't enough to catch Obscurity. And then it was Raymond who, if they could have just strung a win together, could have been above both of them. A real disappointment for them as they picked up a big loss this week, which sits them 5th on 41, which is quite tough. Then you got Incus on 39, a big margin they had, but a double win secured that top 6. Then the teams we won't be seeing for the postseason are 20 Recons on 33, Embark on 25, Nanettal on 23, and the first team yet not to hit 20 in Spark, who finished on 18 wins.
Yeah, rough season for Brave down there, but they will come back in the next season, you would believe, and try and improve on that positioning. But we now need to go over to the other side and see where these play-ins and playoff teams will be playing against, which means we take a look at the Ignis standings. And Sir Pegasus to walk us through everything here, similar to the Glacies conference in the sense that top spot was pretty much confirmed a while ago.
Top 6, you could say, was essentially confirmed here. It was quite the gap between 6th and the drop right underneath. 37 wins there for Terra. Their double draw being enough by quite far to hold on to that position. Occultus sitting on 33, followed by Keanu as well. Occultus also, unfortunately, did have to suffer a sweep from those top dogs, Impetus, who, like I said, already spoiled it. They are first with 45 wins, despite their loss they got this week. Shriner still behind by quite a gap with 3 game wins between them. But where it's really going to be stressful for one team is actually similar to Glacies with ourselves on Obscurity and Thunder. Some foolery just about ahead of Kokyokan there, purely to those head-to-head scorelines. So every single series, every single game of your season matters. We say this every season. So if you are 3-0 down in a series, make sure you grab that extra.
It's so important. It's so important. And you're absolutely right, Pegasus. We say it every time. Well, those are the 2 tiers that we will be seeing later this week in their playoffs and play-ins matches. But of course, we had every single tier playing last week, so we move all the way up to Challenger, going to the Challenger results from last week. Going to start with Glacies, of course. And Kingsman Gas, an interesting week in Glacies for sure.
Yeah, following the theme from the other tiers, there was only one team that could really make it count in the final week, and it was mainly the team that didn't even need to. It was Eclipse. They get a 4-0 sweep onto playoff hopefuls Apprentices, and a 3-1 win onto second place Atmos. A huge week, a statement week from Eclipse when they didn't really need it, but a brilliant result nonetheless, with a 0-0 here as well, which doesn't, I don't know if that's updated on the database either, because both are shown on 68. So whether we're missing that or what the stage of play is, I'm sure I'll get told sooner rather than later. However, one team that were on the charge in the final 2 weeks were 20 Riflemen. They picked up a 2-2 draw with Rise, which doesn't look great for them on paper, but it got a 3-1 win over Kamali at the bottom, and you could think they could start to make a charge. They were looking good in those final weeks, but was it enough for them to push on forward?
We'll find out in just a moment, but first we've got to check in on the Ignis results with Sir Pegasus.
A fantastic week here for Illusory Mischief, with a sweep against DSQ's Canaans and a 3-1 as well against Jormungandr Alpha Surge. A 7-1 to round up their season, essentially guaranteeing them that play-in spot. But another result which isn't quite shown correctly there is actually the top dogs, Qantas, were actually subdued by Frowls. A 4-0 sweeping victory for a team fighting for survival in the top 6. Managed to take down what were one of the top teams in the league. Qantas also got a draw against bottom of the table Trib, so another not fantastic week here for Dexterity, but ultimately they will be doing good enough on the table to make it to those playoff stages. Again, a little bit of a spoiler for later, but another team that went double win this week, fighting in the mid-table to make sure there were no chances of relegation, was Momentum Impulse, grabbing themselves a 3-1 versus Neptunium and another crisp 3-1 against Owls.
Well, there you have it. That is how the final week went in both of our conferences in Challenger. But what did that do to the standings in each conference? We're going to take a look at Glacies first. Who made it to the postseason, Kingsman Gas?
Well, this is something that is quite interesting, because I'll go through the top 3 and I'll explain it as I go. Eclipse clear of everyone else, that 3-1 win over Atmos, proving essential as they take the top spot, leaving Atmos in the dust in second place, tied with Seiko. Now, if I very quickly find that that head-to-head so I can go through it with you, it doesn't really matter in terms of position, but Atmos got a 5-3 over the top of Seiko, so they secure that second place, a 3-1 win at the start of the season being the defining thing for them. So that proves them second and Psycho third. Then a big gap of 7 games to Apprentices in fourth on 36. Now, Royal have only played 68 games according to the database. So I don't know whether they finish 5th or 4th. Nonetheless, or even 6th, depending on head-to-head with Ember. But I believe they would have probably finished 5th or 4th, but that needs to be confirmed later at some point. So then it's Ember in 6th on 35, and teams we won't be seeing in the postseason is 20 Riflemen on 33. A great late charge, but it means nothing in the end. And then we've got Rise on 31, not on the rise this season. Then Fujiyoshi on 29, and Kamali with 22 right at the bottom.
There you have it. That is how your postseason looks in Glacies. Commiserations to those who didn't make it. But now, let's take a look at the other side of the coin in Challenger. It's time to take a look at the Ignis Conference standings after all of the action yesterday, or should I say last week. And that will be with Sir Pegasus, who made it to the postseason.
Well, to be clear, the tables are completely correct. Sometimes they are missing the odd result. There's one result missing here. It's Owls versus Neat. Owls getting a 4-0 victory. So that's some very easy maths for us. Owls actually steal away that top spot after quite a poor finish from Qantas. That will leave Owls on 47 game wins and Qantas second there with 44. They're going to be followed by Neptunium to take those top 3 spots, guaranteed to be playing in this upcoming Sunday. Mischief, Impulse, and Frowls, however, still have to earn that spot in either Thursday or Friday's games. They do so in a rather tight fashion, with Mischief towards Neptunium and Impulse and Frowls to each other, but not quite to that 7th place. They both had fantastic week 9s to hold down these spots, so Sanctum just was not able to keep up. Canaan's, Jormungandr, and Trib also join those lower 4 spots, where unfortunately this is the end for their season.
Yeah, and it's a great shame that it is, but unfortunately that is the way that RSC goes. Some teams very, very close to getting those extra play-in spots, just missing out on the final week. So we are now halfway through all of the results from last week. We move up in the tiers once more to our yellow tier, which of course is Rival. And we will take a look at all of the results from week 9 in Rival, the last week of regular league play. Kingsman Gas, what happened in Glacies?
Well, I can tell you for a fact, Vortex went 8-0, didn't go 0-8. No, sorry, not 0-8, 4-4. They went 8-0. I believe this is a reverse switch. They swept Nightfall 4-0 to put on a stonking 8-0 week against Shinjiru, who could only go. Oh my god, there's another result run the wrong way. 6-2 in their final week. God, do I have to reverse all these fixtures? But 6-2, both top teams absolutely going for a tear, pushing for that top spot in the final week. Do we know who's taking it? Well, we'll tell you when we get there. Nightfall, though, were on the end of a double loss. They got swept by Vortex and then lost to bottom place Kia Nina. So a week where they were looking comfortable in the top 6. Has that all gone wrong for them? Well, we'll find out. And again, I was going to say last week there was one team on a real charge coming out of this, and it was Flame. They picked up a 3-1 win against Journeyman, which on paper looks really, really good. But then a 2-2 against Focus, who were drawing everything they could to get to the end season. But our draws what you need to make the top 6.
That is something we'll find out in just a moment. I love the cliffhangers you're leaving us on, Kingsman. Keep up the good work, pal. Pegasus, over in the Ignis Conference, is there anything to be curious about going into the standings?
Well, first of all, there are a bunch of draws, so you'd think even if there's a result flip, so we've got pretty good chances there of it not being messed up. However, luck was not in our favour, because that Temple versus Nightbird game actually went the other direction, which means Temple had a 7-1 finish to the season as a team fighting for a playing spot. 3-1 versus Owls, 4-0 versus Scaff. Surely this will see them towards those play-in stages. Not an easy week for them. Certainly not for top of the table Calico either, who had to play those 2 teams that were hot on their tails, Carl's and Continuum. It was a draw versus Carl's and then a 3-1 victory versus Continuum to see a little bit of confidence in these final weeks. Continuum's week was actually rounded off there with a draw as well versus Alpha Surge. So for all those top dogs, you're going to see a top 4, which essentially could have been any placement dependent on these very little intricacies. Carl's also getting a 3-1 win versus Aptus, and Aptus getting a draw versus Mirage, you'll see, also had a huge effect on the table.
More cliffhangers, you love to see it. Well, let's not get people on the edge of their seats anymore. Let's tell them what they need to know. And the final standings in the Glacies Conference, starting off here in Rival Tier. Who was able to make that postseason, Kingsman?
Well, Vortex, a stunning 8-0 perfect week, secures them that top spot. I mean, you cannot ask a team for any more to secure top. And, well, they go and produce against Shinjiru 6-2. A sweep for Vortex in their second meeting was enough for them to pick up a 6-2 head-to-head. knocking Shinjiru off the top, even though Shinjiru had won 11 series. It was Vortex who were more clinical in the 4 games, and that puts them on top, both on 45 wins. Then it's 20 Rocketeers securing that 3rd place spot on 41. Then Journeyman on 39, 9 draws for them, and 5 wins leaves them on 39, way clear of Tizok in 5th on 35. Double Loss didn't push Nightfall out of the top 6, 33. They barely escaped the jaws of Flame and Focus, who would have loved to have taken that away from them, but Focus must really be kicking themselves. No get series win in the last 2 weeks. That opportunity just slips through them. Prominence are gone. They will not make top 6 on 30 wins. And Kianina, even though they got their surprise win, they sit bottom on 28 wins.
Well, there you go. There is Glacies. And as we go to take a look at the Ignis conference, something has happened in this conference that Pegasus, I mean, it must be something that has maybe never happened in 16 seasons of RSC. If it has, it's only happened once or twice. Talk to us through how these standings shake out in Ignis.
Well, first of all, 7-1 week for Temple. I asked, was it enough? Unfortunately, not. Such a big finish and still sees them behind Mirage. But that's not what you're all looking at, ladies and gentlemen. I saw the chat erupt as soon as we turned to this page. There was a 4-way tie between 2nd and 4th here. Too many draws this week from all these rosters. By the way, Alpha Surge had a double draw week, and a lot of these teams actually played each other. Caligo played Carls. Caligo played Continuum. Continuum played Apophis at some point, and I believe there's also another permutation here waiting somewhere that I might have missed, but it was a complete battlefield in this final week. But through the fire, through the flames, Carls and Continuum steal that 2nd and 3rd spot, with Alpha Surge and Dexterity forced to hang it down in the lower bracket. Unbelievable. I don't even know how a 4-way head-to-head works, and I tell you what, I'm not going to find out.
There are people paid exactly the same amount that we are to figure that stuff out, Pegasus, okay? That's exactly their job. I will say I'm very happy that it was a 4-way tie for play-ins and playoffs rather than who made postseason and who didn't, because that would have felt so cruel. We've had some like 6th and 7th place ties, of course, in the past, which is cruel in itself, but a 4-way tie would have just been outrageous. So congratulations everybody who made it into the postseason in Rival. We move now up into Elite Division. We are starting to get very, very high indeed, and it is of course our green tier that we go to next. Glacies is where we start, and Kingsman, tell us what happened.
Darkness just completely blacked out this week. Last 2 weeks, they haven't even picked up a draw or a win. They go 4 series loss in a row from near the top of the table, getting swept by Bladesmiths, who were 9th, and getting beaten 3-1 by Atlakoya, who were looking to push their way up the table. But the big team this week that looked to hit the summit was in fact Summit, getting that result surely is around the wrong way again. I mean, I don't even know which results are right or wrong at this point, because according to the database, Summit have gone double win this week, and that means they didn't get 4-0'd by Nguni. But at the same time, it's all too confusing. I'm all over the place. But Summit, we'll go with Summit. We'll go with Summit. Have swept Nguni and then got a 3-1 onto Nepheli, the Nguni team that were looking to push forward, getting beaten out, and just the chance for Nepheli to push on would have been there. But yeah, it was an absolute showdown in this tier. Anyone could have made the top 6 going into the final weeks. So all the result matters. So with there only being 3 sweeps in the tier, which teams were clinical enough when it mattered?
We will find out as we take a look over at the Ignis side. And Pegasus, maybe you'll need some kind of like Rosetta Stone or something, some deciphering mechanism to be able to figure out just who beat who this week in your conference.
Don't worry, I have been on the case whilst Kingsman was talking. And again, I am going to focus on that 6-7 range. Calm down, Twitch chat. And it is going to be Celeritas, Celery Sticks, and Saturnia as our two focuses. I'll tell you that one team plays 6th, one team plays 7th. How did their week 9s go? Well, for Celeritas, it was perfectly even. They actually did get a 3-1 victory versus Vig. However, a 1-3 loss versus Deception is certainly going to slow them down. On the other side, however, Saturnia had a fantastic week. One of those rare sweeps that Kingsman was talking about with a 4-0 win versus Haven, and as well a 3-1 win versus Giles, despite it not showing that. Giles being one of those top-sided rosters as well. It also says Barney versus Giles was a 4-0. So maybe I got a different result there, actually mixed up the wrong way round. But just know that Saturnia definitely went double win. Celeritas went win-loss. We'll have to see how that all rounds out. Carbo as well went win-loss. Giles went win-loss. Alpha Surge went win-draw. And they were the only other team, I believe, to even have a win-draw record or above. Saturnia, of course, being that mentioned roster. And that was as a result of Alpha Surge's 3-1 win versus top of the table Carbo, and also their draw a little bit earlier in the week versus Velocity.
So let's find out exactly what that means for the standings and the postseason. We go straight into the Glacies and we take a look at who has finished top of the table. A couple of level ones, and actually we've got another bit of a surprise here, Kingsman.
Yeah, Rhino, you said in Rival you didn't want a multiple way head-to-head, causing a team to miss out on postseason.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, Rhino, we've got exactly what you didn't want, but we'll get there in a moment. Blaze, they were dominant all season long, and a double draw week just secures their comfort at the top of the table on 48 wins. At Lakoya, secure. They only got one series win in the final week, but it keeps them second. Summit go double win in what is a terrific week for them, which pushes them up to third. Darkness, just that collapse needs to be studied as they drop to fourth on 37. And then we have a 3-way tiebreaker between 5th, 6th, and 7th. Could have been 4 if Olympus had got one more game in them. It was Nguni, Akami, and Nefeli. And don't get me wrong, I am not paid enough to figure out this head-to-head. But, wow, that is really unfortunate for Nefeli because they picked up a series win in the final week. But that loss is just the knife in the chest, and it sends them home on a 0 goal difference. And that is tough to see. And Olympus were just one series behind it. If they'd picked up another game, they could have been involved. Bladesmiths did all they could with a win and draw on the final week, but couldn't push themselves in there on 32. And I think the best of the worst teams so far is 20 Raiders on 30 wins. They picked up 5 series wins, but managed to finish bottom on 30. And wow, another week, and we would all be hyped for this, but it's all over. And Nefeli are the team to miss out.
They are, and it feels so bad when that happens. And I said earlier that I didn't want it to happen, but as we say, there are people who have figured out that tiebreaker, and it was Nguni and Okami to come through. Nefeli miss out by a scrape. So unfortunate for them. They had a fantastic season, fell at the final hurdle. Meanwhile, up in Ignis, we're looking a little bit different. We do have another big tiebreaker to figure out, Pegasus, but this time not for not for postseason berth, at least.
Yeah, it's a little less heartbreaking for the teams that did miss out from it. Just like, by the way, in the Glacies conference, we've got a really decisive top spot. This time it's Carbo with 52 wins, which I believe across any tier and across any conference is the second highest win count we've had. That's a record of 12 series wins, 4 draws, and 2 losses. The most amount of wins hasn't been seen yet, so be sure to stay tuned. But Giles sit in that second place spot, relatively defined, with those 44 wins being quite their way ahead of third all the way down to fifth. Alpha Surge, Barney, and Deception all wanting that potential second life in play-ins and that guaranteed playoff spot. Only Alpha Surge were able to maintain it. Barney and Deception forced, unfortunately, to sit on the wings and play in the lowers of play-ins a little bit later. It's going to be a tough feeling for those two teams, but that is the case. But in that exact same position is going to be a very happy System of Solaris, which do sit themselves in 6th spot with 35 wins after a double win week, just enough to get ahead of Celeritas's win-loss. So another bit of heartbreak for Dexterity. It seems like it's actually been quite a tough week 9 here for the organization. But underneath them, feeling that same pain in the Ignis Conference, will be Velocity, Haven, and Nitzferg.
Yeah, it's certainly been a tough week, as you say, for Dexterity, although just wait until we get onto that next tier. I do just want to quickly mention 200 goals for in Elite is nothing to scoff at. That is a wonderful, wonderful result for DSQ Carbo. Great work from everyone involved in that roster. Right, we do move on to our top tier then. It's Master Tier time. And as always, we start with the Glacies Conference. And any surprises in the results this week, Kingsman?
Well, considering that my last message from Mal was don't trust anything you see on the screen in terms of results, I'm going to have a quick scan to see if anything is wrong that I see immediately. Doesn't look it, but I'll continue with what I was going to say. Anyway, no team picked up double win this week. And a big result as both top 2 teams picked up a loss. And now I don't know which heck result is around the wrong way, but I'm going to assume it's the Kazuku result because it was Inferno who didn't pick up a series win this week, a 2-2, with bottom of the table 20 Rangers and getting swept by Heck. They had a lead at the top, but how comfortable was it? Could they drop those games as Vulcan then swept 20 Rangers? But they then picked up a loss to Zenith, another team that was struggling to form. Although it says, I mean, I don't really know at this point what is what, because did 20? I think 20 Rangers beat Vulcan in 4-0 in what must be the most incredible sweep of league play ever.
Yeah.
Considering where they are. I think
that's unbelievable.
20 Rangers were 10th going into this week, by the way, and they've just swept second and got a draw with first place. That is, if that is how it's gone, that is genuinely bonkers. So fair play to them. And Heck sweep Inferno. And where's Vulcan's other result, which is right? And Vulcan got a 3-1 win onto Zenith. Zenith, who were in second at one point this season and just have struggled for form all the way across the season. But yeah, no real big winners out of the teams here, but a good few 4-0s, and teams were letting the others know they were serious.
Yeah, they certainly were. And over on Ignis, it was exactly the same. Teams working hard to try and get into that postseason. Who impressed in week 9, Pegasus?
Well, heading into the later weeks, I did hear that Cash was moved to IR, replacement being though Red Mob, which as replacements for Cash go, is as good as it gets and probably more. However, I bet Kingsman was not feeling great when the real biggest sweep of the season happened. Kurakami versus Illusion. Just kidding, that's wrong, guys. Illusion swept Alpha Surge and they also swept IOV. They finished their season on a 8-0 record. But there were more results across the board. That one wasn't all too exciting. That was versus 9th and 10th place, and that came to be expected. But Aussie Owls were a team looking to hold off a top 6 spot. And contrary what the screen would tell you, they wanted a double win week of 3-1 versus competitors in that area of the table, Virtus, and another 3-1 picked up against another contender in that area of the table, Transcend. That is how you control your own destiny. That is how you complete your week. Dexterity had to round off with a draw against top side Nox, which to be fair is quite a tough schedule there for them to hold on to. And after their defeat, Transcend were at least able to pick up a sweep versus Paradise, but only 2 of those 3 teams were able to secure their spot in the play-ins playoff stages.
We'll find out who those were after the next stream, which is going to be our Glacies final standings for the regular season here in Master. And, I mean, Kingsman, what a season it's been. The regular season gone so well for certainly those top 2 teams. Talk to us through how it went for everybody in Glacies.
Yeah, and it's Inferno. They didn't pick up a win in the final week, but it didn't matter. They did enough. 11 series wins leaves them on 48 game wins, top of the table. Just behind them is Vulcan, a team who picked up less series losses, but more draws. It proves how much the 3 game wins are crucial behind on 45. Then it's Montezuma. Really had a quiet season behind those 2, but they pick up a 3rd place and comfortably as well on 43. Then it's Abyss on 39 game wins. A win-draw week leaves them in 4th place. Kazuku picked up their first win in 2 weeks this week, and it was crucial as it left them equal on 6 wins, 6 draws, and 6 losses with 50% win rate. Shame their goal difference wasn't equal as well. You could call it the most equal finish in RSC history. Then it's Tempest, who picked up 2 draws, and it barely got them into the top 6 against Zenith, the team who made the incredible run into playoffs last season of Rukia and Reptic with Miller this season around. They couldn't do it this season. They finished 7th. Heck, who got that amazing result this week, they end up 8th on 30 wins. Zeus, no, they looked good, the rebuild at one point, but not good enough as it leaves them on 26 wins. And 20 Rangers, who have probably had the best week of any team will ever have. Finished bottom on 26 wins with a minus 59 goal difference.
Such is the way that Master Tier can work sometimes as we go over to our Ignis conference. And it's arguable to say that we might have saved the best for last here in our recap of Week 9, because we actually see at the top of the Ignis conference the team that have scored the most goals across RSC Season 16 regular season of any tier, Illusion, with 223 goals to their name. Pegasus, what an impressive season they've had.
Most goals and most wins as well. 56-16 is an absolutely egregious record. They had cash for a majority of the season, now replaced here with Red Mob, who is, of course, an extremely capable player, to put it to the least here. No questions about it. They take that top spot, but the rest of the table is where it's going to be a little bit more interesting. Byron takes 2nd place. Nox take 3rd with 45 and 41 respectively. And it's when you drop below sub 40 where things start to get serious here. Berserkers on 37, Aussie on 37, Virtus on 36, and then Transcend on 35. What did I say before? Aussie, Virtus, and Transcend all having very different weeks. Double wins for Aussie, draw loss for Virtus, win loss for Transcend. I said only 2 teams can make it, and Virtus were the ones to snub out Transcend by just 1 game win. I'm not quite sure how that head-to-head would have gone, but either way, that's going to hurt for the momentum roster. Paradise, Kurakami, and Iovi, however, I feel like already had very much accepted their fate by the end of Week 8. But for the rest of this table, builds up to be a very interesting Master Tier play-ins and playoffs with 4 teams with over 200 goals in the highest tier.
Yeah, I just want to say our stats team already had too much work to do with the with the evens records that we had towards the end of the season. So having another one there between Virtus and Transcend, or Aussie, Virtus and Transcend, all 3 of them, I mean, that might have just pushed them over the edge. But no, we do get set places here in the Master Tier, and that is exactly where we finish, which means that we can now take a look at what the franchise standings are looking like across all 6 tiers. Which franchises have impressed, which franchises have not. And Kingsman, we'll start with you for the bottom half of the franchise standings after Week 9.
Yeah, and it's Neat Esports who finish at the bottom on 20. 171 wins, way off of it for what you'd normally see, and it's a shame to see 40% win rate, but I wonder if we went through and analysed how many teams are in playoffs, how many would there be? Because I know for a fact their master team scored 45 of those wins. So that is a big margin and a big percentage of those. Then it's Sanctuary on 193, followed by KDJ on 194, just shy of 200 wins on their first season. Then it's Aspire on 200, Azteca 201, 20R 205, Systema Solaris on 207. Then just above them is Dexterity on 13th, the team who did well last season. Unitox on 210, and Alpha Surge just below that 50% mark on 213.
Absolutely, that is how the bottom half of the table looks, getting up into the 200s now as we crest up to that top half of the franchise standings, and we take a look at who is top of the tree for the season. And to be honest, it only really looks like it was going to be one team after about week 5. They've been impressive all season, and Pegasus, it's going to be Illusory to take top spot.
Absolutely. 253 wins. Illusory have done it yet again. Congratulations to them. And a collective 229 goal difference for the entire organization. That is simply unbelievable. But looking at the rest of this top 10, overall, a lot of familiar organizations here, those that have that experience, that have been here for quite some time, making sure to hold on to these spots. 215 for Brave Esports, followed by 216 by Owls Esports, 220s held down by Forge, Momentum, and Team Berserkers. And then heading into the top 5, it is Shadow Esports, closely following behind Death Cloud Esports with a 1 game win difference. Team Serene sitting in third, again closely followed on there by DSQ Esports. A little bit of crocodile formation here from 2nd to 5th, but at that top spot, you can see them renamed Iwinery with 253, with once again one of the most ridiculous franchise standing results I have ever seen from the same organization.
It just seems to be what they do, doesn't it? I mean, Illusory come in, big credit to the Rox as their general manager, and Seam as well at AGM. Great work from everyone in the Illusory group, including one of our desk mates, of course, Kingsman, bringing up that goal difference with the master tier team. Sorry, I should be more specific. Kingsman's teammates bringing up that goal difference for Illusory, but a great season from that team. All in all, sorry, I've just heard something hit a desk. It sounds like Kingsman's fist. I really hope it is. Right, so that is going to do it for our review of the regular season. We do have a couple more things to get on with, but of course, Pegasus, we've got to wrap this all up in a neat little bow, haven't we? What a season it's been, RSC 16.
Been amazing, and this is just the end of the beginning, I guess you could say. This is where the real matches start to begin. A lot more best of 7s as well, with a huge format change coming to the play-ins and playoffs bracket, which I'm very excited to see heading into these upcoming weeks.
Yeah, me too. I mean, Kingsman, you know, we've got to talk to you about this previous season. I mean, it's from the moment that you first got your team. Obviously, we talked about it here on RSCast that you were very, very happy with the way that you saw things going for that Illusory roster, and of course that has come to pass, top of the table by quite a margin as well. How do you continue to get teammates that simply carry you to trophies? How do you do that?
I don't know, honestly. I just got placed into the team that won last season. They were like, "Yeah, there you go, go grow." If you do all the stuff behind the scenes, and I can just show up, that's great. I don't know.
How do you lose cash and then get Red Mob? Like, this actually needs to be studied. How this keeps happening, even mid-season.
Yeah, no, honestly, I don't know. It was literally, there was 2 max DMV players left. And I was like, you know what? What if I just send it and ask him anyway? Like, what's the worst he's gonna say? No. And then she goes, yeah, okay, sure. And I was like, huh, right, nice. And I was like, okay, great. Well, and there we go. That's how we've secured his services for, well, playoffs and obviously week 9.
Players, of course, will be moving into a little bit later on in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much for my new hat as well. It's not quite as nice as the RSC official hat that you can buy on SpartanWare, the SpartanWare.com/RSC-EU, but it's a nice hat nonetheless. So I appreciate it. I have no idea if I got that link right, by the way. Absolutely none at all. But I think that... SpartanWare.uk/RSC-EU. That close. But with that said, we are going to move swiftly along to our clip and fail of the week. One of our most favorite times of the week here in RSC. So for your enjoyment and ours, remember you can vote on who you think has won each award, clip and fail as they come up on screen. So first, we're going to start with the good. It's clip of the week. Enjoy. We'll see you in a moment.
You wanna stay? Better leave before I feel something real. I'm wide awake when you just hit record. Get away. You wanna stay? Better leave before I feel something real. I'm wide awake when you just hit
So the poll will be available for you in just a moment, but as you can probably tell, Pegasus is a little bit exasperated over there on my right-hand side. Talk to me about it.
We peaked too early in the early weeks, where we got the two clear contenders for clip of the weeks. And I have been watching, even when RSCast has been down, I've been going to the RSC-EU Twitter, which you guys should as well. I've been watching the clip of the weeks. Why is it basic double tap Haven? Why are we clogging the clip of the weeks with these basic double taps? If everyone submitted every double tap they did, clip of the week would be 45 minutes long. I feel like the best shot there actually breaks one of our rules, Kingsman. It was a bouncer sidewall from Seam.
Yeah, I mean, and to think, by the way, the week where I scored like a cool clip, which I thought, oh yeah, I'm never going to do that again in my life, by the way. You know what I had to contend with? I had to contend with 2 smashy clips, a cash clip, a mimical double reset, and a challenger sidewall read. That was the week I submitted something. And I said after, I said, you know what, I never submit a clip to clip of the week again. And this is the nonsense we are produced with. I mean, me and Pegasus might as well have been hands in the air after the first few clips. I mean, come on, guys. We know you could do better. But yeah, Seem, you might have the freest clip of the week win ever, mate.
Production, can we please get some blue teardrops just rolling down Kingsman's eyes, if you wouldn't mind, at some point, because he is crying over there. But you can now vote for who won the clip of the week this week. Let us know what you think. We are going to go to our desk very quickly. Pegasus, of the lot, who do you think it was?
Seam. Seam was the best goal.
Very nice. Thank you very much for the teardrops as well, by the way, production. Kingsman?
Yeah, same.
Fair enough. I'm actually going to vote for Onesie because I know it's going to annoy my 2 panelists, but it doesn't matter because it seems as though everything is...
Yes! Yes, Mal! Yes, Mal! Yes!
Okay, it annoys our producer as well. Who knew? 3 birds with 1 stone. Seam has indeed won the votes, though. 8 votes in the chat. Of course, 2 votes on the panel as well, which count for double. And so that means that it is going to be Seam who takes home the clip of the week for week 9. Congratulations to you. With that said, boys, we have got a bit of a marathon on our hands now because unfortunately there were no fail of the week clips provided to us. But in order to make up for that, all right, in order to bring enjoyment to the masses during the time that we would have taken to do the fail of the week, we have got 5 regular season weeks of weekly awards to go through, folks. Okay. I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding. We're not going all the way back to week 5. That is a joke. We will be going all the way back to week 5 for the team of the week, but not for the actual weekly awards. So week 9.
Chat's celebrating. Oh no, they're not. Only say.
No, they're upset now. Can we get a Rickroll image on stream, please? Absolutely. Bamboozled chat. Sorry, lads. Week 9 weekly awards. Let's take a look then as we go through these. What happened in the regular season? And Kingsman Gas, you can start us off in Academy.
Maybe it's my favorite player in the entirety of the Academy tier. It's Rubber Ducky. That's purely for the name, by the way. I don't know who's in Academy these days. Rubber Ducky, 556.5 points per game is your MVP. Then it's Very Red 69 with his finisher 2.25 goals per game. That's a very good statistic. And then Rake Boy with 80% shooting. That is a very nice thing as well. With 1.5 playmaker is Whoops with assists per game up there. And Rake Boy again, but for 2 very different things. It was for his saving, not his shooting, at 2.75 saves per game. We even get Rubber Ducky with another mention at 2.5 in 3rd place.
Absolutely. Congratulations if you find yourself on the Players of the Week from Week 9 in Academy. We move up to the Prospects tier, and it will be Sir Pegasus to take us through who were the best players of the week. My apologies. Who were the best players of the week from Prospects tier in the final week of the regular season.
Well, your MVP, 2 players getting post 500 points is Robbo in silver, Dizzy in gold with 517, rsc-eu the Death Cloud taking 2.25 goals per game. Robbo of Systema Solaris with a 60% shooting percentage alongside a 3.0 saves per game as well, with actually tiebreakers going in their favour in both occasions, beating out Replaced there for the striker accolade and beating out Big Chebs for the saviour. But a one player I've not yet mentioned is going to be Azteca's Stormy with a 1.75 assists per game.
Great work from Stormy. You got to also mention Robbo getting a silver on MVP as well. A big week for the Systema Solaris player. Congratulations, everybody. As we move up into Challenger tier for week 9, let's take a look at who the best players in Chally were this week gone by. And Kingsman Gas, talk us through who was impressive last week.
Well, Wonder and Tomo, I mean, Tomo, 603 points is normally enough to get you to the top spot, but Wonder's pulled out a wonder here, and, oh, God, does it get any better for Tomo? He's missed out on goals per game by tiebreakers, 2.25, and that goes to Arvelia, as your striker is Jaffa, 550. A lot of players repeating here. Oh, my. JCB is your playmaker with 1.5 assists per game, just beating Quark, and Wonder picked up all those points from saves. 4.5 saves per game. I mean, that is stunning. That is purely brilliant. What a masterclass he had at the back this week, and very much deserving of your MVP.
Very much so. It's nice when we do get a Players of the Week like this, because obviously Wonder has got 2, but it's very quite spread out as far as the players who are getting the awards go, and we do love to see that. Congratulations if you see your name right there. We cross the halfway mark. We go up into the rival tier now, and we take a look at who was playing well last week in rival with Sir Pegasus.
Got TJ there, just shy of 550 points. Oh my goodness, only 0.38 ahead of Beeping Sheik there to steal that MVP accolade away from him. One difference in goals could have taken him off the goals per game. It could have taken him off the MVP as well, but it was close to a DCE sweep with a man providing all of the assists for TJ Nyum, showing himself on that playmaker accolade. A little bit of a a bit of a legend, I guess we could say, a cult hero of RSCast. We've also got Frog with a 50% shooting percentage for that striker medal. That's going to be my favourite player in Rival for the name alone. Your saviour, though, to be fair, a name that is up there, Beeping Sheep with a 3.0, who also got mentioned for the finisher accolade as well. So all areas of the pitch, Beeping Sheep had a great end to his season.
Of course, I will continue to remind everybody that his government name is Gallivanting Goat, as given to him by one of the best classes in the scene right now. As we move on up the tier, sure, move on up the tiers to Elite tier, and it will be Kingsman to take us through this in just a moment as they start to arrive and take us through the Week 9 top performers in Elite, please.
Sweaty Kami was clear at the top, 611 points per game. Also, your finisher with 2.75 goals per game. Oh my god! Also, your striker with 73% shooting. That is a brilliant Week 9, by the way. 2.75 goals per game and the highest shooting. Those are a combo you want to see as a player, and well done to him. He picks up 3 awards for it, and what a week that must have been for him personally. PJ picks up your assists per game, or your playmaker with 1.8 assists per game. Then Wavy just beats Wessel with 3 saves per game. All that saving, and they still went double loss.
Unfortunately, that's hey, that can happen. He tried his best, as it seems. We did have a bit of a tiebreaker there on the savior as well. Wessel playing incredibly well, and also getting the silver medal on MVP as well. But very, very good work for Week 9, if you see yourself there. And lastly, of course, for Week 9, we are moving up into the Master tier. And we're going to see just who were the best performers in there. I've got a feeling there's going to be a certain man who's going to be taking home a lot of gold medals, Pegasus.
Oh, well, first of all, it's actually Noxvas for that first spot. Your MVP with 620 points per game. But don't worry, there is still a Kingsman Gas teammate mentioned there, taking silver with 615. But elsewhere here on the screen, we've actually got Halo doubling up and Faith doubling up as well. It's Halo with your finisher accolade, 1.88 goals per game and 1.25 assists per game. Actually, there in a huge three-way tiebreaker alongside Crisps and Kingsman Gas himself, who will sit in that bronze spot, likely supplying those goals for Reb Mob, who is sitting in bronze for finisher with a 1.75. But of course, Faith also taking 2 of these awards, 50% shooting percentage to show off that efficiency, and 2.75 saves per game as well. Halo with another repeat mention, by the way, in the bronze spot for shooting percentage. So very few names actually spread across this screen.
Yeah, it does seem to be the case. Certainly in the gold medal standings, we were expected to see Red Mob's name a couple more times than just a silver and a bronze. But Halo and Faith keeping him out. Very, very interesting indeed. Those are all of your players of the week from Week 9. And there it is. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. He's figured it out, folks. Great job, production. Very, very, very proud of you. And no, I will not be singing any karaoke for anybody. But we are not quite done with the weekly awards, of course, because we do have to hand out our teams of the week. And for this one, we are going all the way back to Week 5, folks. So, Rick Astley is not going to be concerned about this one. There's no trickery. There's no duping. It will simply be Team of the Week for Week 5. Let's take a look at who played best. And there you go, your team of the week for week number 5. Just a fantastic game from all of these players. Tiago, Genzo, EasyGuard, Nolaran, maybe Omar, and Nep19. Fantastic work if you see your names on there, but we obviously are on a time crunch. We're going to keep moving. Take a look at the team of the week for week number 6. Let's have a look. And of course, the man that unfortunately is now on IR for Illusion takes home the Team of the Week title in Master for Week 6. Cash will take it home, as well as Renkosu, TJ, Axlos, Air, and Zombie Light 11. Great number at the end of that name. But great work. If you see yourselves there, continuing to press forwards for each of your teams moving forwards into the postseason. We now go over to week number 7 and take a look at who the team of the week was for that week. A great week there, week 7, and your winners of Team of the Week were Smashy, Silas, Mentsu, J-Rise. What on earth is that? any help, anybody?
Who, Hakon?
Hakon ATW, is that what we're going with that? Because I did not know how to pronounce that ATW at the end of the name. Hakon for Ankoli Watusi, and of course Endrick for DSQ Livens as well. Great work from everybody involved. Even if I can't pronounce your name, you still played very well in week 7. Moving swiftly on now to week 8 of gameplay and your team of the week. And your week number 8 team of the week is Majtang, Chloe, Rolef, Ronan, Onesie, and another one, Dasbrot. I know there's a Q there, but that's the best of.
Yeah.
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 I see
Any
it.
arguments?
Approved.
Okay, approved. I appreciate that. Absolutely. Apologies if we are pronouncing your name wrong. Hopefully we are not. But team of the week for week number 8 is locked in. That was the penultimate week of regular gameplay, but of course we still have to take a look at our week 9 team of the week. So let's take a look at who was the best in the week prior to playoffs.
It's happened again.
Pegasus is very excited because Red Mob, of course, takes home your team of the week player for Master in week 9. Riley, TJ, Onesie, Maj, and JPEG fill out. Mash, I apologize. Fill out your team of the week for week number 9. And we have finally been able to get through all of the weekly awards that we needed to. So there you are. Congratulations once again to everybody who has seen your names pop up over the last few videos and graphics. Oh, right. Okay. We have filled the time that normally would be filled by Fail of the Week now. So it is time to put the ball knowledge of the panel to the test, as we do every single season. And I am walking in to this predictions contest with a big old W from season 15, folks. And I do not intend to lose my crown anytime soon. But we, of course, have to take a look at the predictions for play-ins and playoffs. And you can see that Kingsman is not especially excited about these predictions because, quite frankly, these aren't his tier, so he doesn't watch anything down here, so he's got no idea what's going on. But, you know, me and Pegasus are bringing in some ball knowledge, so let's take a look at some predictions, and let's start in Academy as we always do, and we're starting with Kingsman Gas's predictions. Of course, you can see, by the way, just before we get into it, the play-ins are now a best-of-7 format as opposed to a best-of-5 format. So you've got a bit more of a chance to get into that playoff spot. But Kingsman, talk us through your mistakes.
You know what, Rona? You're annoyingly right. I don't watch the games down here. You're annoyingly right. So I'll be as honest as I possibly can. I've gone into this somewhat blind. So, yeah, truthfully, I don't know. And, yeah, well, this is... some of the logos are around the wrong way, by the way. Propel is momentum. If I can just take some steam off myself quickly. Yeah, so I had Rain taking it in 4-2. I believe that because Rain had a lot more draws in the season, but I believe in this best-of-7 format, they will come out in top. And then Trickery, I have sweeping in a 4-0. They came out of the season in really, really good form. 2 wins and 3 draws. I think that will power them on against the Rain side, which has been a bit lackluster towards the end of the season. I think Bahamut Unito, honestly, was a coin flip for me. Both sides had basically the same end to the season, but I've given it to Bahamut on this occasion. And then I just gave it to Bahamut based off of momentum. I think momentum will grab them big going into this. I think it'll Bahamut to take it in a sweep again, pushing forward. Best of 7 might seem a bit longer, but trust me, if you're deflated after 2 games, which can happen, I see Bahamut making it through. Then Livens versus Xinjiang. Livens came into it with good form, and so did Xinjiang, but I just think Livens will come out on top in 7. Honestly, they had a tougher run in. They could have finished first and were unlucky not to. And then Marcium, I have doing it in a 4-1. To be honest, I think that's just because of the strength of players that Marcium have. I think that'll push them ahead. As you saw, Das Brot obviously made it towards the end. And Yannick, with all those playoff experience that he's been in, I think that will take them across the line in this first series.
There you go, Kingsman's play-ins bracket. You feel free to argue with him in chat. And also, it's worth mentioning, as it has been mentioned in chat, don't pay attention to the times, okay? Don't pay attention to the dates and times. Things will be figured out this week. But what I can tell you is that the play-ins for Academy will be taking place tomorrow and Wednesday. That's tomorrow and Wednesday. Moving on then to Kingsman's playoffs brackets, and let's see how those play-ins convert into playoffs. And oh yeah, we're not taking you off the mic yet, Kingsman. Talk us through this.
Oh, I thought I got a break or something. Nope. Well, I'll have to power on then with my Academy predictions. I'll start at the top. It's 20 recruits. I think that strength they showed towards the end of the season and the players will just be enough to take it in a 3-1. And Drengir, Livens, they finished well, Drengir, but this was honestly a coin flip for me. Both sides have been good going into it, but I've given it to Drengir. They finished top for a reason, and I believe both first place teams will go to the upper final. Then in the lowers, I believe we'll see both play-ins teams get eliminated in 5. I think both will put up a good fight, but Xinjiang were up in second for a reason. I think they'll beat Bahamut, who had a bit of a rocky edge this season. I gave it 2 games for them. I was a bit probably nice. I was only going to give them 1, but I was feeling nice. And Trickery, I think they'll give a bit of a contest with their end of season form, but I think Ascent, with those draws, will take it in 5. Then Livens, who dropped down again, and we see a rematch of that first game from the playoffs, I believe. I'm definitely wrong there. I am wrong. Great. Good start. But I think Livens will take it coming off of that positive from that. I think they'll take Ascent in 5. I think that'll be a very good game. But I think Marcium will come down with the better momentum and beat Xinjiang here 3-1. Then in the theme of Game 5s, I have Livens beating Marcium. I believe both sides will be up for it. But I think Livens will take it this time. And then 20 recruits Drengir. Honestly, again, another 50-50. I could honestly see either team winning this on the day. It really depends which team shows up in the moment. And I've given it to 20R on this occasion for a 4-3 win, which sends Drengir down. I think with Liven's momentum coming through the lower bracket, they'll get a 4-1 win onto Drengir, moving them up to the grand finals and then getting the better of 20R in the first series. But bracket reset, I think 20R will focus themselves back in and take it in game number 5. And they'll be your Academy champions, or the first ever Academy champions.
Yeah, absolutely. Academy, a new tier coming in for RSC this season, and 20R do get that win, then they are going to take home that first trophy for RSC. We will now actually go and take a look at my predictions for the coming week. Please remember that Academy playoffs will be taking place this weekend on Saturday. But first, I'm going to talk you through what is happening on my end. So I think things start relatively similar between myself and Kingsman. Rain going through over Propel. Although I think he had Bahamut going in over Team Serene, which I don't. I think Team Serene Unito is going to be able to get that victory. Over on the top side, I think Ascent are just about going to beat out Marcium and Livens as well. I have beaten Xinjiang, which I believe is very similar, although I think Kingsman had Marcium going through. Meanwhile, in that lower bracket, I think Rain are just going to miss out on this occasion. I'm very sorry to Hodge in chat, I know. But I do think Trickery have got a little bit too much for them. And then I think it's going to be a real slogfest between Coyotl and Unito. But I think Team Serene have just enough to find their way through to Saturday's games. So with that said, let's take a look then at my playoff brackets, which I will gladly talk through with the utmost ball knowledge and, every single bit of information that I have. Here we go. Things start with some absolute barnstormers. Lots of 5-game and 7-game series here for you guys. I actually think Ascent are going to beat out 20 recruits, which, a lot of people might not agree with, but that's where I'm going with. And I do actually think Livens are going to beat Drengir. Now, of course, Drengir coming in as the favorites into that game, but as has already been mentioned by Kingsman, Livens definitely have the ability to beat them, as he predicted that in the lower final. So why not in the upper semi? Down in the lower bracket, Trickery came through a very, very close game, but they just couldn't get it over the line against Sistema Solaris. In my opinion, Marcium just a little bit too strong. I do have actually Xinjiang beating out Unito, though. I do have that win going through. Of course, it's not 20 recruits. It is, in fact, Xinjiang. And that means that we then get those games in front of you for the lower quarters. Marcium versus Drengir and Xinjiang versus 20 recruits. I think both of these games are going to be incredibly, incredibly close. But I have Marcium taking it over Drengir. I think Drengir are going 2-0 on the weekend. And 20 recruits, a similar thing, of course, which, again, is going to be not very popular considering they are the 2 top seeds going into Saturday. But for me, I just think there's enough in the tank from both of those teams. Meanwhile, we look at the upper final, which, of course, is Ascent versus Livens. And I've got Livens going through to that grand final, beating Ascent 4-2. Meanwhile, looking down, I think Sistema Solaris are going to make the run all the way through into that grand final. Marcium finished strong with a 2-win game week, and I think that's exactly where they are going to continue, beating Xinjiang and Ascent on their way to the grand final to fall short in a Game 7 against Livens. That is where I find myself sitting for the Academy playoffs. And they may look mad. They may look mental. But at the end of the day, I am still your reigning defending predictions champion, and you need to respect me for that. As we move on to Sir Pegasus's predictions for the coming week, and Pegasus, how do you think the play-ins are going to go?
Well, first of all, I want to say Kingsman saying he knows nothing about the tier. He hasn't watched a single second of Academy. I'm going to claim myself as the expert today. I know everything about Academy. Everything I predict is not a prediction. It is foresight. It's all going to come true. Let's start off with the upper stages of play-ins. 4-1 to Systema Solaris Marzium. I've had a 4-3 for Unitox against DSQ. I'm just feeling it. Game 7, we've introduced that best of 7 format, so we might as well use all of the games. And heading in lowers is going to be a brutal day for DeathCloud. 4-0 sweep versus Propel. Finally, they don't get a draw. I mean, it was impossible to do so, but I guess a 4-4 is close enough. Records they are very familiar with. So, of course, I had to keep that 50% win rate. Lower down, very similar story here for Team Serene. 4-2 win versus Alpha Surge's Bahamut, but unfortunately, they will not be making it to Saturday's Rocket League because Coyote, the team that's waiting, the Piranhas in that lower brackets, are going to advance to that playoff stage with another Game 6. We're heading into the playoffs. Oof. This is where it's going to get interesting. This is where I'm going to rustle a few feathers, but like I said, I speak the truth and only the truth. Well, let's start off in that lower round 1. Ascent knocking out Trickery with a 3-1 win. 20 recruits knocking out Coyote off stream there with a sweep as well. I don't predict a sweep very often, but I just decided that was going to be the only one of the day for some reason. And then in uppers, we've got the upper seeded teams, both taking 4-game victories. 20R versus Marzium, Drengir versus Xinjiang, Systema Solaris and Unitox sent down to play Ascent and Livens. I got, again, the higher seeded teams continuing their run through. Xinjiang with a 3-1 win versus Ascent, and Marzium with a Game 5 squeaking victory forward. But just like my lower bracket in the playing stage, if you win with one record, you lose from the other side. So Marzium, off the back of a 3-2 win, are going to lose 3-2 to Xinjiang Unitox, who will find themselves in the lower finals against Drengir. It's a top-sided matchup, first versus first in the upper finals. 20 recruits going to take it 4-2 there. Back in those lower finals, Drengir will earn their rematch with a 4-3 victory. Another game going the distance there for Unitox. They ran out of steam. They go to the grand finals, and we are not messing about with a bracket reset. 20R with another 4-2 win versus Drengir.
Boys, where's the creativity? All right, where's the intrigue? I mean, Academy is one of the most unpredictable tiers in the entirety of RSC, and you've both gone, top seed's gonna go to meet in the grand final and the upper final. Yawn, boys.
Nah, wrong.
Yawn.
Wrong. I put
Correct
Livens in the
predictions.
grand finals. I put Livens in the grand finals.
That's true.
He did indeed.
All right,
He
then
did
my beef is only with Pegasus. That's true. As we move on, then we do actually have a new predictor with us this season. Archeon decided that he was one and done with winning predictions, and so he is no longer going to be joining us. Instead, we will be joined by the head of the broadcast committee, the absolute legend, which is Stingray. He has given us his predictions for Academy, and we can walk them through now as we go straight in to his play-in predictions. And well, this is pretty much the start that you would expect to see, although he's gone Propel over Rain, as he thinks the momentum side will be able to get past DeathCloud, which means Hodge goes out even earlier than he did in my predictions. Crazy work. Bahamut as well, beating Unito 4-1 to go through into the next round. Over on the top side, it's Marcium to beat Ascent 4-3. Close game up there. Livens beating Xinjiang as well to get through into the Saturday matches 4-2. And on the bottom, it's two very closely fought matches. Illusory Trickery just about getting the job done against Propel 4-3. And Alpha Surge Bahamut gonna beat Azteca Coyotl 4-2 to go into Saturday. With that said, let's take a look at how Stingray has laid out his Saturday predictions. And we'll see whether we agree or disagree with all of it. I think I'm actually going to disagree with something. Yep, there it is. That's what I was afraid of. The boring predictions once again. First seeds gonna meet in the upper final and the grand final. Yawn Stingray. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the breakdown of how we got there. 20 Recruits versus Marcium goes 3-1 to the Recruits. Drengir and Livens, he's actually got very even. A full 5-game series going the way of the Berserkers roster. Meanwhile, down below, Trickery came through a really, really tough game to get to Saturday, and they're only going to last a game as far as Stingray is concerned. Ascent to take them down 3-1, and Bahamut just about going to get through Xinjiang as well to go 3-2 into the next round. Ascent are going to lose out, though, after beating Illusory Trickery to the DSQ Livens, and that's a little bit of a run there for DSQ, but it's going to stop in the next round after losing to a Systema Solarius Marcium side who beat Alpha Surge Bahamut 3-1 in the lower quarter final. In the upper final, he's got 20 Recruits beating Drengir 4-2, which of course is the same, I believe, as Sir Pegasus. And in the lower final, Marcium versus Drengir, he's got Drengir being able to find that mental, come back into the game, and beat out Marcium. However, it's the grand final I'm interested in because he reckons it's a 7-game series to take us to a bracket reset where Drengir sweep 20 Recruits in the second version of that series. And if that does happen, I mean, that would be very, very interesting indeed. But yeah, so Drengir to win 2 series back-to-back against 20 Recruits after losing to them in the upper final. Could be right, could be wrong. We will find out on Saturday, but that is all of our predictions for the Academy tier. The other tier that is happening this week is, of course, the Prospect tier, and of course, we have each made our predictions for Prospect tier as well. So we are going to circle all the way back around to Mr. Kingsman Gas to talk to us about his Prospect tier predictions.
Kingsman Gas, who equally knows as little, by the way, about this tier as he does Academy. I mean, this is a night. I'll be honest, these 2 tiers will be a nightmare for me. And well, where should we start off? I'm going to start at the top this time. Obscurity 4-3. I think Wanzi will be too much to handle. I think they'll take it the Distant Shrine. I've given it their run in recent forms have been good, and they've got a good roster behind them. I think that roster will certainly cause some problems, but I think Obscurity will get over the line. And I have Ankoli Watusi doing a bit more comfortably in their roster. Obviously, Hakon showing up in Team of the Week here, so I believe he can do it to push his side through against Tomfoolery 4-1. Now in the lower bracket, I have Raymond beating Terra 4-2. I mean, this one, honestly, was tough to call. I wasn't going to say it was going to go to 7. I think it's one of those that goes to 2-2, and I think whoever takes that third game moves on forward, and I've given it to KDJ in this instance, but I have them being stopped by Cuckoo, Alpha Surge here in Game 7. I think,
Yep.
I think simply, I could see this being a reverse sweep, because I can see generally Hunter Sam and Potter both like getting on the game with like a minute before, and Raymond coming on in like very good form, taking 3 games. But I think eventually Alpha Surge will work that back. Now in the lower bracket, I have Incus coming through as 4-1 winners. Remember, that roster is very, very strong in terms of experience. You've got Kincaid, Mash, and Gaz, all players that have done this for many seasons now. So I have them beating Owlet 4-1, and then I have them beating Thunder 4-2. I think they'll push forward from it. I think they might be a real team to watch out for, a real threat with the experience and the ice they will have.
Very interesting opinions from Kingsman. Let's see if they continue to be interesting as we move into your playoff predictions, obviously taking place on Sunday. Where do you put these games?
Well, I put Obscurity sending the top. I have both top seeds dropping down into lowers. Obscurity in 5. I believe Yokai will struggle. They struggled for form towards the end of season, and I think Obscurity will have that just better to get them on the day. And then Ankoli Watusi having a 3-1 against Impetus. I think it'll be the shock of the day as well. I think Ankoli Watusi on the day will come out stronger and get the better of this result. Now, moving on, I have Shrine going through 3-2 against Alpha Surge. Again, that is just due to strength. I don't think I could see Dispatch going out of Prospect playoffs in a double loss. So I put that as Shrine going through. And I have Incus as well, 3-0ing Yoka. I think they'll come out strong on the day, but get shut down by both the first seeds. I think Impetus will come down on a tear. I think they'll sweep Shrine as Yokai get a 3-1 win onto Incus. And then it'll be a huge fight in the lower semi-finals, which both teams will be wondering how they've ended up there. I think Impetus will just have the edge in this scenario, take it in 5. And then in the upper finals, I think Obscurity will just be better than Ankoli Watusi. I think the momentum from the first game will run out, and we will see them drop to the lows in 4-1 fashion, where they go out and double 4-1 as Impetus's pure momentum makes sure there's no repeat of that first series. And then in the grand finals, I have Impetus coming through hot at the start with a 4-2 win, and then a real nail-biter in the final series as Obscurity take it in 7 for another season of people saying, how is Onesie still in Prospect?
We will see if that is going to be the case. Predictions made there by Kingsman Gas, and hey, he doesn't have to get on the mic again until we close things down for the night. So you can take a rest now, Kingsman, as we take a look and scrutinize further predictions. We're going to start with mine after Kingsman. So we are going to go to my prospect tier predictions, and we are going to look at what I think for the play-ins. So we'll start on the top side first. I do believe Obscurity are too much for Sanctuary Shrine. They will take them out 4-2. Meanwhile, just below that, Ankoli Watusi, I've got us going quite a long way in this bracket, I believe. They are going to go 4-2, I believe, against Tom Foolery. Meanwhile, on the lower bracket side, I think KDJ going to be close, but no cigar against Sistema Solaris Terra, a 7-game series, which Terra win. Meanwhile, I've got Incus beating Owlet in quite convincing fashion 4-1 to get through into that next round. But I do not think they go any further. I've got Death Cloud Thunder to go through onto Sunday's matches with a 7-game series against Forge Incus. Meanwhile, I think Alpha Surge Kukulkan, which of course is the Mayan feathered serpent, for those of you who know your mythology, are going to take out Sistema Solaris. Are going to take out Sistema Solaris Terra 4-2. I don't believe there's going to be a sweep at all in the prospect play-ins. Let's see if I continue that. Moving on to the play-off predictions. And I don't believe I predicted a sweep in the playoff predictions either. We'll find out. I did not. Everyone's getting at least a game. So, again, we will start up top. And I am going to go for an early Obscurity loss. I think Team Serene, Pegasus's old org are going to come back to haunt him. And Shadow Obscurity are going to go down into that lower bracket with Yokai going through. Meanwhile, Impetus just going to get the job done against Ankoli Watusi. I think they are going to find themselves in that upper final. Meanwhile, in the lower final, how do we get here? I think I predicted Shrine to go out quite early, so I don't think it's Shrine there. Just trying to remember who it actually is. Oh no, Shrine were in the upper bracket, weren't they? Of course, so that does make sense. So I've got Shrine basically going 0-2, losing on Thursday or Friday, and then losing on the Sunday as well. I think Alpha Surge are going to be able to get through. And I actually think Thunder are going to continue their good work as well, taking out Tom Foolery as they do so. And going through both of those games 3-1. Then I think the road for Alpha Surge comes to an end there with Ankoli Watusi doing enough to get through. But again, I think that's a tough series, as is the Thunder versus Obscurity series. But unfortunately, I have got Pegasus going 0-2 on Sunday with Death Cloud getting into the lower semi-final.
You're going to take that, Pegasus?
He doesn't have a choice.
We'll see.
Up in the upper final, it's Impetus Momentum who are going to be taking through this victory against Team Serene Yokai 4-2, as far as I'm concerned, and they will meet Death Cloud Thunder, who I've got going the entire distance, folks. I'm a full Death Cloud believer in Prospect. They're going to beat Ankoli Watusi in the lower semi-final. They are also going to beat Team Serene Yokai 4-2 to get to that final. And unfortunately, the Cinderella run comes to an end in the grand final, where Momentum Impetus proved just to be too much for them. Roast me in chat. I'm sure you have been doing for this whole time. And we will see exactly how we get on over the course of the week. But we now, of course, move on to Sir Pegasus's predictions. And we'll see what Sir Pegasus thinks for the play-ins coming up over the next few days.
No, Rhino. How much did Death Cloud pay you to put that prediction out? I want to know, because I want to see if I can do it for any of the higher tiers. You know?
No. Listen, that's an undisclosed fee. You know, like they do in football with the transfers. Yeah.
Nice. Smart. Yes, I like it. I like it.
Amazing. As we all know, I absolutely love predicting brackets that I am directly involved in. So this is going to be a really fun time here. I'm sure no one will get annoyed at me in chat, but we'll start off in the lowers. We're going to go for KDJ, making a run there to the playoff stages with a 4-1 win versus Terra and a 4-2 win versus Alpha Surge. I like them. After the roster change, we actually did a direct swap. We got Ozan and they got Ariana, and I think they look really good after that change, despite their results. Owlet, 4-1 win versus Incuts, followed by a 4-0 sweep by Thunder. So someone else with some DCE belief to head to the playoff stages. But I don't think there's going to be any surprises with my first prediction here in the upper bracket. Obscurity taking a 4-2 win versus Shrine. And then why not a cheeky Game 7? I didn't know which way to go. I flipped a coin. And Colt with 2C taking it over Tomfoolery. Why not Unitox all the way? And then this playoffs page, this is where it's going to get interesting. This is where I'm going to get lots of love from some old friends. Mal, let's bring it up, and I cannot wait to see this chat reaction. As usual, I'll start with lower round one.
Wow.
Unfortunately, KDJ cannot progress, but Shrine will in a Game 5 victory. Yokai will unfortunately drop due to Thunder, and some betrayal here as the Team Serene boy predicts 0-2 for Team Serene Yokai. 3-2 in the uppers. Such a stressful result, and Thunder got to get as close to a draw. I know it's not Academy, but they're going to go the extra distance. 3-2. We've got to have a first seed curse somewhere in these predictions, and I hadn't had one yet, so I had to throw one here in the way that was going to annoy as many people as possible. On the other side, a bit more normal, a bit more what shouldn't annoy too many people. Momentum 3-1 versus Ankol with 2C. They're the first seeds. They will progress. They'll drop down Unitox to play against Shrine, where I have predicted a 3-1 to Unitox. I'm a Unitox believer. But in the lower semis, that's where my belief for DCE will end. Ankol with 2C progress into the lower finals, where they are going to be playing the other first C, Impetus, for a 4-2 loss. And then down in that lower finals, there's actually another 4-2 result. It's actually my favourite prediction to go for. I'm going to pretend that Momentum are going to get to the grand finals to face ourselves on Obscurity, where the Prospect and Challenger MVP will carry me cash/reb mob on Kingsman style.
Yawn. Moving on. Sir Egosus there with his predictions for Prospects. Thank you very much. We will see how you get on with that one as we take a look at our special guest predictions, of course, which is going to be Stingray's play-ins predictions for this tier, this Prospects tier. And Stingray, I'm not sure is looking to ruffle too many feathers with these. Of course, he's got Raymond going through, as we did a moment ago, beating Sistema Solaris and Alpha Surge, respectively. 7 games and 5 games in each of those. Meanwhile, Owlet going to get past Incus, but can't beat DCE Thunder, who will book their place on Sunday with a 4-2 victory. Meanwhile, in the top side of the bracket, he's got Obscurity to beat Shrine 4-1. And Ankoli Watusi seem to be the favorite among us panelists to beat Illusory Tomfoolery as they beat them in a 7-game series. Let's take a look then at his playoff bracket. And we'll see if he continues to agree with many of the opinions of the panel, or if Stingray maybe has gone a different way for the playoff bracket. We'll start in the lowers, and it will be Raymond, who came through with 2 big game wins on Thursday, Friday. Couldn't get past Shrine, though. They take a 3-1 loss. Shrine march on. Another DCE believer for at least one more day as they beat Tomfoolery in a 5-game series. But that is going to be the end of their road, as actually it seems that he is also not much of a Sir Pegasus believer, with Obscurity losing to Team Serene in a 5-game series, as I predicted in the upper semi-final. Momentum Impetus able to beat out Ankole Watusi in a 4-game series, though. So your upper final is Yokai versus Impetus, which Impetus win in 7 games. Continuing on in the lower bracket is the lower semi-final. Obscurity are able to beat Ankole Watusi 3-1, but that is where their day ends, as Sir Pegasus continues to be haunted by his previous organization. Yokai 4-2 victors in the lower final against Obscurity to set up a upper final rematch for the grand final, and the result will be the same. Impetus take out Yokai in a 7-game series, and that is going to be how Stingray at least sees this week going. Oh, and everyone can take a breath. All of our predictions are out there for this coming week. Of course, we will be hopefully back next week, where we will be able to give you the predictions for our next 2 tiers, which of course is going to be Chally and Rival. And then of course our final week is Master and Elite. Goodness gracious me, we made it. So yeah, egoing his old franchise, Pegasus. I mean, we're having a lot of fun here on the predictions. Do you truly believe that Shadow Obscurity will go on to win Prospect Tier this week?
Yes.
Nice. Thanks. And I mean, Kingsman, obviously you have no knowledge of the tier, so I wouldn't like to ask you a similar question. But are you how are you preparing for this kind of playoff post-season run? Let me give the people a little bit of an idea of what your routine looks like. You've been here a few times now into this postseason. What are you doing in preparation?
Trying to avoid the game and play as many other games as possible. Genuinely, yesterday I downloaded like 5 different games I've got to try, and my plan is to not touch Rocket League properly for a while. So those are the only right ways to prepare, surely, by not touching the game.
There you have it, folks. From the horse's mouth, Kingsman Gas says, don't play Rocket League if you want to win your tier. Final thoughts then. Regular season over Pegasus. Excited for the postseason?
Yeah, really excited for the postseason. Excited a little bit for the break as well. Like, I came back from a bit of a hiatus to playing this season in the first place, and my goodness, has it been a lot of work. I'm very much on Kingsman's side of things here, where after this, we're going to have another questionable off season where either I get offered by the best player in my tier, or Kingsman gets offered by the best player in their tier. And if that doesn't happen, we don't play.
Yeah, exactly. Bargaining chips. Say the best player comes to us, or we don't play.
Yeah. Yep.
Sounds about right. Obviously, the thing is, the off-season isn't going to be especially long, as the RLCS season, of course, gets underway very soon after the RSC season ends. So, Kingsman, obviously, things happening, I would imagine, on your side going into the RLCS season. But
definitely.
Of course, so
yeah,
I'm
not sat doing nothing. I'm not sat on like 1 hour past 2. No.
But of course, reflecting on the RSC season, the regular season, how do you feel it's gone? Are you excited for playoffs?
Yeah, of course. I mean, playoffs is really where it matters. I mean, you can go essentially. I think we've seen as low as 30 wins and make it into playoffs, and get as high as 56. It all depends how you play on the day. That is what this makes this so rewarding, because technically my team could go 0-2, and that could be it. Best win rate, and we could go straight
Mhm.
out. I don't see it happening myself, but it could happen. This is really
It has
where
happened.
teams
Yes.
it does happen. It does happen all the
Mhm.
time. Teams that go first flop out immediately, and those teams who finish sixth make that run even further, even though they finished on 15 game wins less. So I'm interested. I'll be honest. I always love a fairy tale run. I always love it
Mhm.
when a team from like fifth or sixth place goes all the way to lower finals, and I'm hoping for as many as possible this season, guys. That's my aim.
I hope so as well. It's all, as you say, it's always nice to see those kinds of runs and keep believing in the dream, as you said. But we are going to shut this one down. Thank you so much for watching RSCast this week. We hope to be bringing you RSCast every week for the next couple of weeks during the postseason. Don't hold us to that, though. Do not at me. But, of course, with everything said, we thank all of our sponsors, Badass Studios, LTXAcademy, as well as you can go over and get your RSC official merch. Go to our SpartanWare link in the chat, or if you are buying anything on the Epic Games Store, please use code RSC-EU. Shows your support in RSC-EU and also puts a little bit of money in our pockets. We'd very much appreciate all of you doing that. But for Sir Pegasus, for Kingsman Gas, for myself, thank you so much for joining us this week on RSCast. We hope to see you next week, and best of luck if you are playing in the postseason this week. We wish all of you well. Take care, and until next week, we'll see all of you there.
Be quiet. I hear the thunder that comes from far away.